What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Quest for Clarity podcast. I'm your host, Nolan Denaro. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me as I launch this new podcast. I'm so excited to launch this podcast because I've been wanting to do this for years at this point, and I'm finally at the point where I don't care, and I'm just going to do it and see what happens. I no longer care about maybe it won't do well, or maybe nothing will happen. Maybe I won't even post it. Like, I'm done caring about that, and I just want to post it and just see what happens. Because I've always been a nerd about politics and government and history, and I've wanted a way to express that beyond just learning about it myself, because I get stuck in this loop where I'm learning so much and I get so interested in these topics, and I begin to think to myself, why do I learn so much about these topics, and why do I put so much time and effort into learning about these topics, unless I'm going to use it for something bigger than this, bigger than just me sitting in my room and learning about them. And this is the attempt at that. I'm going to try and launch a podcast. Maybe it gains traction, maybe it doesn't, and we'll see what happens. But I'm just going to do this because it is the most I can do at this point. It's the least I can do, at this point, to push my opinions of things, which I think are valid. I think I have very valid opinions, and I'm open to them being challenged. That's why it's called the Quest for Clarity. It's not me espousing clarity. I don't know that I have the clarity. I have what I believe. I have the truth as I see it, and there's the truth as other people see it. And I love hashing it out in debate formats or discussion formats. That's why I'm in the debate club at school. That's why I listen to both sides of the argument whenever it comes to issues. I listen to Tucker Carlson's podcast and Candace Owens' podcast, and then I go and listen to the Young Turks show every night. That's a very progressive-leaning show. So I like to keep a very wide range of topics. I listen to Lex Friedman when he has people of both sides on. I listen to Joe Rogan when he has people of both sides on. And I like to just always have a good, well-rounded sense of people's arguments from different sides, so I can argue for them or against them. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, as for me personally, I've been into politics and history and government for as long as I can remember, probably first, second grade, watching the Schoolhouse Rock episode about how a bill becomes a law, or watching the Liberty Kids episodes about George Washington and the American Revolution. I've just always been into that, and I got really into politics specifically in third and fourth grade when the 2016 election cycle began, and I was introduced to one man, Mr. Donald Trump. As you can tell by me owning that hat, I do support Donald Trump. I am a Trump fan. I love this. I think he's an overall net positive on the political scene. And I think the fact that he broke the media, I think the fact that he broke the establishment, those two things alone deserve so much praise, because think about it. Back pre-2016, you look on the Republican stage, who's out there saying that the Iraq War was a mistake besides Donald Trump? Literally nobody. That's just such a fundamental truth that has to be said. And nobody on that Republican stage was willing to come out and just say it. You see his interviews from back then. He's talking about how overthrowing Gaddafi in Libya was a mistake, and the attempts to overthrow Iran are a mistake. Obviously, these are obvious truths that have to be spoken, and nobody on that Republican stage, expecting Republican support, was willing to say these basic truths. They were unwilling to because of their donors, and because of their handlers, and because of the political consultants that tell them it's not a good idea to say this. The only one who had a real grasp on what the public was interested in hearing and what the public wanted from their politicians and their leaders, not even their politicians, what they wanted from their leader. An ideal leader speaks the truth as he sees it. Not even that. I think that's just such a basic litmus test. Are you willing to say that the Republican policy of you're willing to go on the Republican debate stage and say the Republican policy Republican foreign policy of the last 20 years has been a mistake? Yes. It's okay to be a conservative and clearly say yes, acknowledge the truth about what has happened in the last 20 years, at least. I mean, there's so much more you can get into than just 20 years. But you have to be able to acknowledge when things have failed and when things were terrible ideas to begin with. You can look back on those and just say that was a bad idea. But when you are unwilling to say that, you lose so much credibility. And I think the fact that he was willing to say that on that debate stage was really one of those moments that just made him different from the rest of the crowd. Now, as we get to 2016, I'm still fifth grade, and I'm just such a nerd about this stuff that I made political trading cards about everyone running for president. I had a Chris Christie trading card, a Ben Carson trading card, a Trump trading card, a Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz trading cards. I was just so into it, and I don't know what it was about politics at the time, but I was just so invested in it. And ever since then, I've been nonstop wanting to learn more and wanting to really develop my perspective on these issues, the issues that occupy our political discourse. So my political views are conservative libertarian leaning, if that wasn't made obvious already, but I'm going to call balls and strikes as I see it, and that's the point of this podcast, is to be constantly learning and constantly evolving my views, because I don't know everything there is to know yet. I'm 18 years old. I've been paying attention to politics truly for about 9 years, and I'm just constantly I'm reading different books from different points of view. I watch different points of view, and I want to always just be evolving not always evolving, but I want to always be honing in what it is that I believe and what I value personally, and not so much be just repeating the same talking points that you hear on so many different shows and so many different, especially just cable news as a whole. And that's why I think podcasts are so great, because it's just a platform where you can just say what you think, and that's how it is. My reaction to 2024 as a whole, as we get into the more modern times in this discussion, 2024, I remember where I was every step of the way in that election, whether it be from the launch of Trump's campaign right after the midterms, where the Republicans red waved that did not come. He took that as a chance to kind of reclaim the party, I think. And I remember watching that live and just I was like, okay, here we go. Like, at that point, you have to kind of be like, you're tired of this. It's been at this point, it had been 6 years of Donald Trump being in the political scene. After the greatest downfall probably in political history, not the greatest, but one of, with 2020 and everything that happened after that. How do you come back from that? It's astonishing for someone like you, and that's also the point of this podcast, is to really point out to people who don't understand how that could be possible, how that is possible. Donald Trump, at its core, speaks to a forgotten group of men and women, specifically in the middle of this country, that feel forgotten by the coastal elites in places like DC or Los Angeles or New York. They feel completely forgotten by the Barack Obamas and the George W. Bushes and the Hillary Clintons and the Kamala Harrises of the world and the Joe Bidens. These are people that obviously don't have their interests at heart, and it's so. What else do you have to look at? That they obviously don't have your interests at heart at all. And this isn't even me saying that everything Donald Trump does is correct. I'm not even going to say that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying if you look at the actions taken by the previous administration, doing nothing to stop the border crossings that were record highs, doing nothing to stop the wars abroad, the wars in Ukraine and the war in Israel, that are so obviously on the brink of nuclear conflict. Like, the idea that we have no power to stop these things that have direct impacts or potential direct impacts on the American people means you don't obviously care about the American people. It's astonishing. Like, my views on these issues is largely backed on what is in America's interest. And it's clear that the previous administration had no interest in what Americans thought about these issues, especially in foreign policy, which is one of the big issues that I've really developed over the last few years, my stance on foreign policy. But we can get into that in future episodes. This is more just an introduction episode about what this podcast is going to be about. But yeah, just to wrap this up, I want to leave you guys with information on the social media pages where you can find full episodes and clips from episodes. You can find full episodes at X, YouTube, and Spotify. The X username is thequest_pod. The YouTube page you can find at The Quest for Clarity with Nolan Denaro, and then same thing for Spotify. You can just find The Quest for Clarity. That is where full episodes will be posted on X, YouTube, and Spotify. I also have an Instagram page called The Quest for Clarity, where I'll be posting, once I get more episodes out there, I'll be posting short form clips from those episodes, as well as possibly some other posts as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in to this first episode. Be sure to follow or subscribe for more. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.